Welcome to Tactics of the Enemy. Today, we're delving into how spiritual adversaries, specifically marine spirits, seek to hinder believers. Could you start by explaining what marine spirits are and why understanding them is crucial for Christians?
Absolutely. Marine spirits are demonic entities often described as spirit spouses, mermaid spirits, or the queen of the coast. They work to disrupt a believer's relationship with God, often in subtle ways. Recognizing their tactics is key, as Proverbs 11:9 reminds us, "Through knowledge the righteous will be delivered."
That's a powerful point about knowledge bringing deliverance. For listeners new to this, could you clarify how these spirits operate differently than other spiritual adversaries?
Certainly. Unlike more obvious forms of spiritual attack, marine spirits exploit everyday objects and trends, especially those linked to beauty and culture. Their influence is often hidden, making their operations difficult to detect without spiritual discernment and divine revelation.
Your mention of hidden influence is intriguing. As we transition, could you share how everyday choices, like clothing or accessories, might provide these spirits with access points?
Of course. Many believers overlook that items such as hair extensions, tight clothing, or certain beauty products can serve as artifacts, essentially spiritual gateways. In my personal journey, I discovered that these trends weren't just cultural, they had spiritual implications I hadn't considered.
That's a profound realization. Could you expand on how something as simple as a fashion choice might become a legal access point for spiritual oppression?
Certainly. Just as a key fits a lock, these items can act as identifiers or portals for marine spirits. For instance, tight clothing, which I wore regularly, provided what I'd call legal ground for a spirit spouse to afflict me. Similarly, hair extensions I wore from childhood became points of spiritual entry.
That analogy of keys and locks really helps clarify the concept. Are there biblical or historical precedents for this idea of physical items carrying spiritual weight?
Yes, throughout Scripture, physical objects often hold spiritual significance. For example, in Acts 19, new believers burned sorcery scrolls as a sign of renouncing past ties. Today, the principle persists. Items can be spiritually neutral or serve as conduits, depending on their origin and use.
Transitioning from theory to experience, could you share a personal testimony illustrating how relinquishing these artifacts impacted your deliverance journey?
Certainly. When I began seeking deliverance, God revealed that certain items like wigs or tight clothing were being used against me in the spiritual realm. I vividly remember a moment when the Lord opened my eyes to see a wig as a monitoring tool for marine agents.
That's quite an eye-opening experience. How did embracing modesty and natural living affect your spiritual freedom and intimacy with God?
Adopting modest dress and removing artificial items was transformative. Not only did I experience fewer spiritual attacks, but my relationship with God deepened. It's akin to decluttering a room. Removing obstacles allowed more of God's presence to fill my life.
It's encouraging to hear such practical outcomes. For listeners struggling with similar challenges, what initial steps would you recommend in their journey to freedom?
First, I'd urge believers to seek God's guidance in all things. Spiritual discernment is essential. Not every trend or item is spiritually detrimental, but some can be. It's about asking God to reveal specific areas of vulnerability. As Ephesians 6:12 reminds us, we wrestle against unseen forces.
That's a helpful distinction. Are there practical tools or disciplines like prayer, fasting, or scriptural study that can help believers identify and close these spiritual gateways?
Definitely. Regular prayer and fasting sharpen spiritual senses, while immersing oneself in Scripture builds a foundation for discernment. Community support is also invaluable. Sharing testimonies often brings hidden issues to light, accelerating healing and deliverance.
With these insights, it's clear that overcoming spiritual oppression is a collaborative process between God's revelation and personal action. As we conclude, could you summarize the key takeaway for our audience today?
Absolutely. Ultimately, our victory comes from God alone. By seeking Him earnestly and remaining open to His instruction, we can break free from hidden spiritual hindrances and walk fully in our divine assignments. Knowledge truly is a pathway to deliverance.